Your brain is addicted to cheap dopamine, and it's quietly robbing you of real happiness. Every time you scroll mindlessly through social media, snack out of boredom, or binge a series to escape your thoughts, you're feeding a cycle that's slowly numbing your ability to feel joy. On the surface, it feels like relief. But deep down, there's an emptiness growing. You're not broken. You're overstimulated. The modern world has trained your brain to chase instant gratification, flooding it with easy rewards that feel good in the moment, but leave you feeling hollow in the long run. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. What you think makes you happy may actually be what's making you weaker, sadder, and more distracted. You wake up tired, unfocused, anxious, yet the first thing you reach for is your phone. You crave calm, but chase a noise. You long for meaning, but settle for momentary distraction. This isn't because you lack willpower. It's because your neural chemistry has been hijacked. But what if you could take it back? What if the answer to feeling alive again wasn't more stimulation, but less? Imagine living with clarity instead of chaos. Imagine reclaiming your attention, your energy, and your sense of purpose, not through hacks or pills, but through ancient wisdom that understood this trap long before the digital age began. The Stoics knew this. They saw how pleasure can enslave, how craving can cripple, and how self-discipline is the path to inner peace. What they taught 2,000 years ago is now being confirmed by neuroscience. Real joy doesn't come from what you chase. It comes from what you master. This video offers you a blueprint to reset your dopamine, rebuild your mind, and reclaim your inner strength. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just timeless practices that can help you feel fully alive again. If you're tired of feeling numb, this is where your reset begins. Dopamine is not your enemy. In fact, it's one of the most essential chemicals in your brain, driving motivation, learning, pleasure, and reward. Evolution crafted it as a tool for survival, helping our ancestors hunt, explore, and achieve long-term goals. But it was never meant to be constantly triggered. Dopamine was designed for scarcity, released in controlled bursts after effort, after struggle, after doing something hard. Today, we live in the opposite world, a world of infinite stimulation, infinite scrolling, infinite snacking, and our dopamine systems are collapsing under the weight of it all. What we're experiencing is not just distraction, it's a biological hijacking. Every like, every ping, every swipe offers your brain a hit of dopamine. Processed foods are engineered for it. TikTok is built on it. Streaming services are designed to keep your dopamine spiking hour after hour, feeding you content faster than you can even digest. But here's the catch. When you flood your brain with quick, effortless dopamine, you desensitize it. You build tolerance. The same things that once excited you now barely register. So you chase more, louder, faster, brighter stimuli. And yet, you feel emptier than ever. This is the modern dopamine crisis. It's not a medical condition. It's a cultural one. Think about your day. You wake up, and the first thing you reach for is your phone. Dopamine? You check messages, scroll social media. Dopamine? Maybe you eat something sweet for breakfast. More dopamine. You avoid uncomfortable tasks with distractions. You reward yourself before you've earned anything. And by noon, your brain is fried, your motivation flatlined, and your mood unstable. But instead of resting, you stimulate more. Another show, another snack, another scroll. The effects go deeper than we admit. Overstimulation leads to numbness. You start to feel disconnected from reality, from your work, even from yourself. Anxiety creeps in as your nervous system burns out from constant novelty. Depression follows when nothing excites you anymore. It's a quiet kind of suffering, one that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but feels like inner collapse. You feel restless, yet exhausted, bored, yet overwhelmed, alive, yet somehow empty. The Stoics, centuries ago, anticipated this trap. Marcus Aurelius warned against being a slave to pleasure, and Seneca wrote that the person who depends on luxury for happiness becomes its prisoner. They saw that the constant pursuit of pleasure weakens the soul. It makes you reactive instead of calm, impulsive instead of grounded, soft instead of resilient. And now, neuroscience backs it up. Every artificial dopamine spike distances you from authentic fulfillment. The more you consume pleasure without effort, the less capable you become of enduring discomfort, building discipline, or feeling real joy. This is the war inside your brain. Pleasure versus contentment. Pleasure is easy, it's instant, but it fades fast and leaves a vacuum in its place. Contentment, by contrast, is earned. It's quiet, steady, slow. It comes from doing what you said you'd do, from taking care of your body, from facing challenges and growing stronger. Pleasure stimulates your dopamine. Contentment balances it. And this distinction is everything. We think we're chasing happiness, but we're really just chasing highs, hits of stimulation that exhaust us and distract us from what really matters. Meanwhile, true satisfaction lies in the very things we avoid. The workout we postpone, the project we never start, the silence we fill with noise. We run from effort, but effort is the medicine. Here's what most people never learn. Dopamine isn't just about reward. It's about anticipation. It's the chemical of pursuit. When you delay gratification, when you work towards something meaningful, your dopamine system activates in a healthy, sustainable way. You become focused. You become driven. You experience flow, purpose, energy. And you no longer need cheap highs to feel okay. So if artificial rewards break you down, what builds you back up? The answer begins with discomfort, with stillness, with reclaiming control of your attention and rebuilding your mind through discipline. It starts by cutting out the habits that numb you and replacing them with habits that sharpen you. It means turning to the Stoics, not just for quotes, but for lifestyle. Live simply, expect discomfort, pursue virtue over indulgence. These aren't just moral ideas. There's biological reset codes. Turn off the notifications. Take cold showers. Write in silence. Walk without music. Eat without sugar. Work without checking your phone. Train your brain to love effort again. That's how you reclaim your dopamine. Not by starving it completely, but by earning it the right way. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate pleasure. It's to stop being ruled by it. Dopamine isn't bad. It's powerful. But like all power, it needs direction. Unfocused dopamine is distraction. Focused dopamine is drive. And when your dopamine is aligned with your values, with your purpose, and with the long game, you stop chasing quick rewards. You start building a life that actually feels good to live. Long before dopamine became a buzzword in neuroscience, the Stoics were already living as if they understood its mechanics. They didn't use the term, of course. They didn't have MRI scans or biochemical models, but they observed human behavior with such clarity that their insights feel eerily aligned with what science has only recently confirmed. The Stoics noticed something simple yet profound. Pleasure, when pursued, tends to run. But when you stop chasing and start mastering your desires, true contentment begins to emerge. Their goal was never to escape life's discomforts or engineer constant happiness. Their aim was control, not of the world, but of their minds. And that's exactly where dopamine comes in. Contrary to popular belief, Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of pursuit. What actually lights up your dopamine system is not the reward itself, but the anticipation of the reward. It's the thrill of the chase, the feeling of progress, the sense that something meaningful lies just ahead. The Stoics understood this instinctively. Rather than wasting that pursuit energy on cheap highs or quick comforts, they redirected it toward virtue, resilience, and inner peace. They learned to love the process, not just the outcome. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, began his days with a brutal kind of mental training. He reminded himself in his journal that the day ahead would bring rude people, pain, setbacks, and tests. Why? Because he knew that by preparing his mind to face hardship, he was aligning his internal reward system, not with pleasure, but with perseverance. His anticipation wasn't for dopamine hits. It was for the opportunity to practice courage, self-control, and reason. In modern terms, Marcus trained his dopamine system for endurance, not escape. This is the key difference. Most people today are slaves to their dopamine. The Stoics became its masters. They built routines that focused their mental energy on long-term fulfillment, not short-term stimulation. Seneca spoke often about voluntary discomfort. He would sleep on the floor, eat coarse food, sew and wear simple clothing, not because he enjoyed suffering, but because it broke the dependence on comfort. It trained his mind to find strength in simplicity. Epictetus, once a slave, believed that everything outside your control is irrelevant, and that real freedom lies in mastering your own will. These aren't just lofty ideals. They are biologically sound strategies for realigning your dopamine system with lasting purpose. When you train your brain to anticipate growth instead of comfort, you begin to reverse the damage caused by overstimulation. Each time you resist a distraction, you build a small amount of discipline. Each time you face discomfort voluntarily, you grow more resilient. And here's the twist: your brain actually starts to reward you for it. Over time, discipline itself becomes pleasurable. This is what the Stoics did so brilliantly. They reprogrammed their reward systems. Instead of craving ease, they learned to crave effort. Instead of wanting applause, they wanted alignment. Instead of chasing happiness, they pursued harmony with nature, with reason, with the deeper rhythm of life. In contrast, modern habits do the opposite. Every time you scroll for novelty, you weaken your anticipation system. Every time you binge for escape, you confuse your brain into thinking satisfaction comes without effort. This hijacking of your dopamine doesn't just dull your motivation, it distorts your reality. The Stoics warned about this distortion centuries ago. They called it hedonic illusion, the false belief that external things can bring internal peace. They knew the moment you outsource your contentment to things you cannot control, you've already lost the game. And yet, Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless or austere for the sake of it. It's about freedom, mental sovereignty. When you follow Stoic principles, you begin to notice a strange but liberating pattern. Your cravings lose their grip. Your distractions become less seductive. The silence you once avoided becomes a sanctuary. You start to feel joy not because you chased it, but because you finally cleared the path for it. It's important to realize every distraction costs you discipline, and discipline is the compound interest of mental strength. One skipped dopamine hit may seem insignificant, but it's a vote for a different identity. When you start stacking those votes, when you build a life where your rewards are earned, not given, you tap into the same neurochemical power the Stoics did. You rewire your mind to serve your deepest values, not your shallowest impulses. This, in the end, is how the Stoics mastered dopamine without ever naming it. They built systems of life daily rituals, mental frameworks, reflective journaling that centered anticipation around effort, purpose, and virtue. They taught that the ultimate reward is not a fleeting sensation, but the steady rise of character. They didn't eliminate pleasure. They elevated it. They created a relationship with dopamine that served their principles instead of sabotaging them. The beauty of this is that you can do the same. You can reclaim your dopamine from the grip of algorithms and addictions. You can condition your brain, one habit at a time, to anticipate the deep satisfaction of a life lived deliberately. It starts with a pause, the moment you choose stillness over stimulation, the moment you reach for a book instead of a screen, the moment you welcome a cold morning run instead of sleeping in. Each of those is a Stoic act. Each is a signal to your brain. This is what we reward now. So ask yourself, how do I rewire my mind like a Stoic in today's chaos? In a world addicted to constant stimulation and shallow dopamine hits, the Stoic path offers an antidote, one rooted not in suppression, but in mastery. While today's dopamine comes cheap through phones, sugar, and streaming, the Stoics knew that true joy is earned, not handed to you. They didn't need modern neuroscience to understand the connection between mental strength and pleasure. They lived it. They practiced it. They became stronger through it. If you're ready to rewire your brain like a Stoic, here are 10 powerful ways to do it. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just ancient wisdom backed by modern science. 1. Embrace voluntary discomfort. Comfort is addictive, but it dulls the mind and blunts the spirit. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort to stay sharp and free. They wore rough clothing, slept on hard ground, and fasted, not because they enjoyed suffering, but to remind themselves that they could survive without luxury. Modern science shows that cold exposure, fasting, and delayed gratification not only improve resilience, but also recalibrate dopamine receptors. When you stop indulging in easy rewards, your brain becomes more sensitive to real ones. A cold shower or skipping a meal may seem small, but it trains your nervous system to seek strength over softness. 2. Practice daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius journaled every day, not for show, but to discipline his mind. His meditations are not just a philosophical work. They are a manual for managing emotion, aligning intention, and anchoring identity. In today's overstimulated world, journaling becomes a detox for your dopamine-flooded brain. It replaces the mental noise of reaction with the calm of awareness. Write not to impress, but to understand. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What am I grateful for? This practice grounds you in clarity and truth, the birthplace of sustainable confidence. 3. Move your body with intention. The Stoics valued strength and physical discipline. Epictetus, though physically disabled, taught that we are responsible for the body we have. Movement is medicine for the soul as well as the brain. Modern neuroscience shows that intentional movement, walking, lifting, running, not only reduces cortisol, stress hormone, but boosts dopamine and endorphins. The key is intention. Move not to sculpt your body for vanity, but to sharpen your mind for action. Train not to escape your life, but to embody it fully. Motion resets emotion, and movement anchors the mind in the present. 4. Find joy in simplicity. Seneca taught that happiness comes not from having more, but from needing less. In a dopamine-driven culture, simplicity is a rebellion. The less you need, the freer you become. Simplify your meals. Simplify your surroundings. Simplify your goals. When you stop chasing more, your brain starts to notice the beauty of what already is. This doesn't mean you give up ambition. It means you realign it. You let go of excess, so you can focus on essence, and your dopamine, once scattered across distractions, begins to concentrate on purpose. 5. Focus on what you can control. The core of Stoic philosophy is control, not over outcomes, but over yourself. This mindset has a neurological impact. It lowers anxiety and restores a sense of agency, which in turn stabilizes dopamine. When you focus on effort, not outcome, your brain learns to reward action, not fantasy. Want peace? Take action where it matters. Want progress? Control your responses, not the results. The modern brain is overwhelmed with what-ifs and headlines. The Stoic brain returns to what is and what now. That shift is where power begins. 6. Eliminate instant gratifiers. Every scroll, every snack, every unnecessary notification trains your brain to seek pleasure without effort. The result? A scattered mind and a weakened will. The Stoics wouldn't have tolerated it. They would have seen these habits for what they are: thieves of attention and energy. Removing instant gratifiers isn't deprivation, it's liberation. Delete the apps. Put the phone in another room. Say no to the sugar that spikes and crashes your brain. With every distraction removed, clarity emerges. And in that clarity, real dopamine starts to flow, not from escape, but from engagement. 7. Meditate on mortality, memento mori. Remember, you must die. This isn't morbid, it's motivational. When you face the impermanence of life, every moment gains weight and worth. Gratitude increases, anxiety decreases, and the need for shallow stimulation disappears. Neuroscience shows that reflecting on death can increase meaning and reduce fear. The Stoics knew this intuitively. They trained their minds to walk beside death, not run from it. This perspective gives your brain something deeper than dopamine. It gives it direction. 8. Cultivate deep purpose. Dopamine loves targets, but the targets we chase, likes, clicks, money, are often meaningless. Stoicism teaches that purpose must be rooted in virtue, service, and contribution. What do you live for? Who do you serve? When your goals align with something greater than yourself, your dopamine system stops seeking constant novelty and starts generating lasting drive. Purpose gives pain meaning. It gives effort context. It gives life depth. Without it, pleasure feels hollow. With it, even hardship becomes bearable. 9. Surround yourself with stillness. Noise is the enemy of wisdom. The Stoics sought silence not because they hated sound, but because they knew insight lives in quiet moments. Stillness resets the mind. It allows dopamine to balance and thoughts to settle. In stillness, you reconnect with your inner compass. Make time for walks without headphones, mornings without screens, meals without multitasking. Silence is not an absence, it's a presence. And in that presence, your true desires begin to surface. 10. Accept pain as a teacher. Modern culture teaches us to avoid pain. The Stoics taught the opposite. Pain is a signal. It teaches, it tests, it strengthens. And from a neurological view, enduring hardship without escape increases dopamine sensitivity. The reward becomes deeper, longer lasting, and tied to growth. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Don't run from discomfort. Step into it, sit with it, learn from it. On the other side is a form of joy that no screen or substance can replicate. These 10 techniques are not hacks. They are habits, practiced and refined over time. They work because they align with the natural rhythms of your brain and the eternal truths of Stoic philosophy. When you begin to live this way, you'll notice something profound. Your cravings quiet down. Your mind sharpens. Your mood stabilizes. Life doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. Your dopamine, once hijacked, returns to its rightful master, you. The Stoics didn't eliminate pleasure. They purified it. And in doing so, they discovered something richer than happiness, meaning. Let that be your aim too. The ultimate realization of this journey is simple, yet transformative. Happiness isn't about constantly feeling good. It's about becoming unshakably strong. That's what the Stoics understood. That's what modern science is only beginning to affirm. In a world hooked on ease, escape, and endless novelty, we've confused stimulation with satisfaction. But beneath the dopamine crash, the anxiety, the burnout, and the mental fog, something ancient and resilient is trying to rise in you. Your natural strength. Dopamine was never meant to enslave you. It was meant to serve you. It is not your enemy. It is your inner compass. But like any powerful force, it turns destructive when left untrained. The mistake we make is feeding it junk, likes, clicks, snacks, distractions. The Stoics didn't eliminate desire. They refined it. They didn't suppress emotions. They sharpened awareness. And in doing so, they built a life, not of passive comfort, but of lasting clarity, control, and deep fulfillment. Modern society offers us false highs and real lows. The sugar rush that leads to guilt, the endless scroll that leads to emptiness, the instant gratification that robs you of delayed triumph. It's a system built to keep you weak. But Stoicism flips this model. It gives you the tools to embrace discomfort, not as punishment, but as training. To endure boredom, not as a curse, but as a signal that your mind is healing. To turn every temptation into a test of your discipline, and every test into strength. Picture yourself now, waking up with purpose, moving with intention, choosing what to consume, not being consumed. You're no longer chasing dopamine like a drug addict. You're creating it from within, through action, through meaning, through growth. You're not numb. You're awake. You're not overstimulated. You're centered. You're not addicted. You're aligned. That is the power of Stoic living in a dopamine-drenched age. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need to live in a cave. You just need to reclaim your mind. And it starts with one moment. This one. One decision. To delay comfort. To reflect you instead of react. To show up with intention. Every time you resist the quick hit and choose the long path, you're not losing pleasure. You're earning freedom. Let's return to the hook. Your brain was built for greatness, but only if you stop feeding it garbage. Your inner power has been hijacked by comfort. Stoicism is your recovery protocol. The cold shower, the empty stomach, the quiet morning, the handwritten reflection. These are not burdens. They're battle drills. And each one is a message to your brain. We are no longer slaves. We are warriors. So here's the final twist. What if every moment of discomfort you feel from now on isn't a sign of weakness, but a signal of strength returning? What if every urge you resist, every emotion you reflect on, every pleasure you delay, is actually your nervous system healing, your willpower sharpening, your inner Stoic rising? True happiness is strength. Mental health is self-command. And the good life isn't something you scroll to find. It's something you train to create. The battlefield is your brain. The victory is your life. Now ask yourself, what if every moment of discomfort was actually my power returning to me? Because it is, and you're ready. This journey was never about becoming numb or emotionless. It was about becoming emotionally unbreakable. The Stoics never taught suppression. They taught sovereignty. They didn't tell you to escape feeling, but to master it. In a world where everything pulls at your attention, pokes at your craving, and promises a shortcut to joy, it takes real courage to slow down, to say no, to reclaim your mind from the chaos. Dopamine is not evil. It's not something to fear. It's a tool, a powerful ancient signal that when misunderstood, leads you into addiction, but when mastered, becomes the engine of focused, meaningful action. The Stoics knew this long before neuroscience gave us the terminology. They held their emotions and their impulses with a steady hand. And now, so can you. Start small. You don't need to change your life overnight. Just remove one cheap pleasure today, one mindless scroll, one impulsive snack, one reflex to escape discomfort, and in its place, plant something deeper. Read something that sharpens you. Move your body. Sit in silence. Reflect. Replace that hit with purpose. Then comment below. What will you remove? And what will you rebuild with? If someone you know feels like their mind is broken, if they're overwhelmed, scattered, or stuck in loops of false pleasure, send this their way, not as judgment, but as a lifeline. Because once you realize that your power isn't gone, it's just buried beneath distraction, everything changes. And remember this, strength is not built in noise, not in indulgence, not in outward praise. Strength is built in silence, in still mornings, in quiet restraint, in deliberate discomfort. That is where your power lives, not on a screen, but in your spine, your breath, your discipline. The Stoics didn't promise ease. They offered something far greater: control, peace, and the strength to face anything. Now the path is in front of you. Will you walk it?